Hi there everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel as many of you know me, and this is the weekly angel card reading video for the week starting at the 24th of May through to the 31st of May 2020. So let's see what might be coming up in the cards for us this week, very last week of May. Oops. Okay, we have Damara guiding children. So a couple of things for those who have felt called to work with children, be that professionally, voluntarily, or take on a more active role in working with a child that they know, or perhaps have a child of their own who needs a little bit of extra help with something that they are struggling with or going through right now. This card confirms that you can handle that and you are the right person to do it, so go for it. You've got an ability to really understand what kids are going through and what they might most need to hear. And often the best way to do that is think about what you would want to hear if you were a kid in their position. So for those of you who that doesn't speak to, myself included, the message I always take from this is about us being a parent to ourselves, which I know sounds a little bit naff, but stay with me. So many of us have gone through experiences where we didn't receive the love, support, care we needed as children, or we just had parents who didn't work through their own healing, which is probably most of us, because most parents didn't have the awareness of healing that we have now, and which means that, you know, hopefully future generations will be a lot more self-aware and a lot more adjusted, because, you know, we are doing the work now. Anyway, so being a parent to yourself means giving yourself, a bit like I said in that example, giving yourself the care that you would need as a child, the support, the affection, the reassurance that you're okay. We all need to hear that. We often look to other people to tell us instead of doing it to ourselves, to soothe ourselves, to reassure ourselves and let ourselves know that we're not defined by our quote unquote mistakes. I haven't think about the word mistakes because I don't think it's a helpful word, because often the things that we perceive as being wrong or errors are actually the things that we needed to most do to learn from. So anyway, those mistakes are often things that we need to, instead of beating ourselves up, they're what we need to sort of soothe ourselves with, I guess, and remind ourselves that we're not defined by those events or circumstances. Now, Tuesday's card here is cut your cords. So I'm trying this standing up, which I don't normally do. It's a little bit weird, so that's why I keep shuffling. I think I'll go back to sitting after this. But anyway, cut your cords. You can see Archangel Michael here with this sword of light. Those of you who've worked with me know that I quite often bring Michael in, and I often, well, depending on what you've been going through, will use a cord cutting clearing, which cuts the energetic cord between you and perhaps your ex, perhaps someone who has, you know, you've tried to, you're still keeping the energy alive, even though they're not part of your life anymore, in a way that's unhealthy. I don't mean, you know, missing someone, which is obviously a healthy way to keep someone in your life. Cutting cords between expectations we might have. It's really about letting go. Let me read this to you actually. Ask Archangel Michael to clear any old attachments to fear that stem from past relationships, freeing you from destructive patterns. So, I mean, the card was designed to target relationships specifically, but my reading is wider, and I will say it doesn't just apply to relationships. So when we form an intimate relationship with someone, be that romantic or even a close friendship, there's like an energetic cord that forms between you, and that doesn't naturally sever when the relationship comes to a close. For whatever reason. So sometimes that energy is still alive, and particularly if you are still angry at this person, you still have regrets about what happened, you can still keep that energy alive, and it stops you from moving forward. Now here's where I go in a different path to what this card has said, because this card has said just ask Archangel Michael to help you clear those cords. And what I would say is, in my experience, that's not enough. And I'm not saying that Michael isn't powerful enough to do that clearing. What I'm saying is we need to do the deeper work to figure out, why are we so attached to that? Is it because we didn't get our needs met in that relationship? Is it because it's part of a larger pattern where we were involved with a narcissist or something like that? And so the work I do in energy healing goes much deeper to clear what's going on underneath. So if you are asking Michael when you're feeling like that cord is still active, it might be a good idea to reach out to me and talk to me about energy healing, because it could be that there's something else going on underneath. Sometimes just asking the angels to fix the problem for us just doesn't work, because there's something in there that we need to look at before we can move on. So funnily enough, Wednesday's card is forgiveness, which is a nice sort of segue, I guess, because I was just talking about resentment towards other people. Now, those of you who have been following me for a while know that I am not someone who is a big fan of the word forgiveness. In fact, many of these card decks have actually taken the card out, because the reason for that is I think that there is a movement in many facets of spirituality to just advocate forgiveness and you know, that'll fix it and it'll make the issue go away. My stance on that is, that puts the onus on the victim, and it takes off, you know, absolves the perpetrator of their responsibility. It doesn't account for what happened. It doesn't give you closure. It really doesn't. I've tried it many times. You can't force forgiveness on, because when an injustice has occurred, when a wrong has been done, that's a deep wound, and it is a lot more than just trying to forgive. Because often when you're saying I forgive you, you're not really forgiving them. You're trying to, but there's still an attachment to what happened because it hurts so much. And often we need to look at why the situation happened without blame. But why we need to look at what is around that wound, what contributed to it. All those sorts of things need to be dealt with. You can't just go, I forgive you, and then it's over. It just doesn't, in my experience, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this, in my experience, that's not a helpful way to move through something. We need to look at, why am I upset about this, and what else happened. Is it part of a pattern that happened a lot? Were there warning signs that I overlooked? And again, not to blame, but just to understand, to fully learn the lesson, really, so that you don't attract it again. So what I take from that card, I've already shuffled the next card, but I went off on a tangent again. Let me just say with this, if you are in a situation where you feel ready to forgive and you feel that it's helpful for you, by all means do it. Do not let my judgments sway you, because my judgments are really just my own opinion, and I'm like all of you, I'm not an expert here, I'm a student. I will post a blog article about this, because I know it's something people struggle with. I read this, if forgiveness doesn't resonate with you, perhaps because you share my opinions or because it's not there yet, I would read this card as healing. That's what you need to be thinking about. Where is their tension? Where is their conflict? And what do you need to do to move past that? And I think what I should have said earlier with forgiveness is that I think sometimes it's a way, or it's a means of shoving things under the carpet. If we just forgive them, we don't deal with what's actually happened there. And my approach is, we need to actually look at what happened there and really unpack it before we can properly heal. So Thursday's card is See Only Love, and this is about recognizing that everybody is doing the best they can. Now you might say, well, you just told me not to forgive, so this doesn't agree. And that's not exactly what I meant. What I mean here is that we still need to be able to understand what was giving rise to that person's behavior. What have they done to heal themselves? Oh, nothing? That probably explains a lot. Now, I'm not saying that if someone is a narcissist that we should just give them a free pass because, you know, until they deal with their stuff, they're not going to change. No, certainly not saying that. But what I am saying is, if you can look and see what's going on within someone, it can be helpful. And it can also stop you from going, I'm better than you because I've done all this work and you haven't. We don't want to be in a situation where we're comparing and competing and trying to feel superior. That's a power game, and the ego loves it, but it just doesn't actually help. So what I would say with this card is, try to, on an everyday level, I often give the example of someone pulling out in traffic, and what you can, you know, instead of getting angry, try to be a little bit more tolerant and understand everybody's doing the best they can. Is one example. It could be more everyday stuff rather than these bigger kind of wounds that are coming up here, is it, you know. But yeah, trying to recognize where people have come from can certainly be helpful when it comes to moving on. It doesn't make it okay, and often there's a lot more that needs to be done, but I think it's helpful when you, particularly if we're talking about something like a parent who perhaps abandoned you or, you know, wasn't there for you. If you can look at the way they were raised, then I often challenge people to do this in my energy network. That a really noisy Logan car that went past. If you can look at the way they were raised, again, this doesn't make it okay, but it's helpful for understanding that they were passing on something that, I just dropped the card, I'll be back. They were passing on something that was passed on to them, and then you therefore have the ability to break the chain, to be the circuit breaker and say, I'm going to work on this so that I don't pass it on in some way. And but you can sort of see if your parent perhaps was abandoned by their parent, or they didn't get the love they needed. Maybe that helps to explain why they've done that to you. Again, doesn't make it okay, but it's just a helpful perspective. Instead of demonizing someone and painting them as this really horrible person, seeing them as flawed and doing the best they can be helpful. Again, doesn't make it okay. I'm getting repetitive, I need to move on. Here we have Friday's card, Look Deeper. So, I sort of alluded to this before when I talked about looking at what was going on underneath, what were the contributing factors. Do not take anything at surface level. So, in particular, when this card is coming up, I would say do not rush into anything today. Ideally you wouldn't rush into anything anyway, because you're more likely to be responding to your ego if you do that, then which is driven by fear rather than your intuition. Your intuition always wants you to sit, reflect, and really take into account what's going on here before you make a move. Sometimes we don't have that luxury, but the better we can get at sitting with what's coming up and feel comfortable with that can help. So look deeper. It could be in regards to a decision you are making. It could be in regards to a situation that you're facing. And because Venus, the planet of relationships, is going a retrograde, which means it's basically throwing a spanner in the works of many of our relationships, not just romantic. It could be speaking to that, to relationships that instead of assuming that your partner doesn't love you and that's why they've not done this thing that you asked them to do, maybe look a bit deeper and see what is going on here. Maybe they just aren't aware because you actually didn't tell them what you needed. You just hoped they'd read your mind and then they didn't. So really doing a bit of a deep dive into the underlying factors, and I love that because I'm a Scorpio. I'm all about looking deep. I don't do small talk, as any of my friends will tell you. Not that I have a lot of them, for good reason, because it can be a bit annoying to be friends with me, because I'm not someone who wants to, who will let you get away with just sweeping things under the carpet. Oh, I just dropped all my cards. That's clearly not the right card deck. I'll move on. But I appreciate not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to look deep. And sometimes you don't need to. So it's a bit of a balance to try and figure out, is there something deeper going on here? And if this card is coming up, probably is. So this might be an opportunity for you to really think, what's going on here? What do I need to know? And again, try not to force it. Venus likes to... Venus is the planet that rules Taurus and Libra. And Librans in particular are very known for being indecisive. I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way. And Taurians are, they're very grounded. They like to think things through as well. So perhaps with it going backwards, maybe this is coming up because some of you are feeling compelled to rush. And last week we had a card around there's enough time for you to get what you want, and try not to force things to happen on your schedule. Doing the work, of course, but not trying to, if things aren't moving for you, not panicking and thinking, oh, that means it's not going to happen. So here we have Saturday's card here, Courage. I can't think of an occasion where anybody doesn't need courage. It can be really everyday stuff where we need this. Sometimes just answering my phone takes courage for me, because I don't like talking on the phone. I find it really scary because I'm not a confident speaker, and I feel a little bit uneasy, or I can't see people. I can't kind of get a strong read from them. Now you know I do most of my my work over Zoom now instead of phone calls. So this could be minor things. It could be about there's something that you've been putting off that you actually need to deal with, or it could be about bigger things, which could also be something you've been putting off that you really need to deal with. So we can range from the mundane to, you really need to do that decluttering that you have been putting off. I'm not telling you what to do, by the way, this is just an example. Or it could range right through to you actually need to set some boundaries with your boss who keeps, infringing on your personal time. I don't know. Be courageous, stand up for your beliefs is here. So it could be about being an advocate for yourself and perhaps setting boundaries would be one of those things. I'm going to pick up this card deck I dropped. This is not particularly ladylike. I'm sorry about this. Not that I care about being ladylike, but it's a bit weird when I'm talking, you can't even see me. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that maybe I dropped this card deck because it needed a better quality shuffle. Just being optimistic, but anyway, you know me. Not the most professional, but we get there in the end. I just dropped some more. It's okay. I'm starting to wonder whether this just is the wrong deck. So I'm just going to pick another one. I've only got 7 here ready to go, so I chose one card deck for each day of the week. So I don't think it matters. So if I double up and use a second one, sometimes I do this without even thinking about it anyway. So I think we can establish that me standing up is not working. And this is just taking a really long time. So I'll go to this one, my very first angel card deck. It's called Saints and Angels. A little more biblical than I would like, but this image is quite nice. It's reward. And straight away my eye goes to this dove here, of course, a symbol of peace. You don't need to be spiritually minded to know that. The idea of the reward, when I really tune into that, it's often worthiness that comes up. Many people are not comfortable feeling like they deserve to be rewarded, even if they have, in fact, earned it. People can be reluctant to accept compliments, to accept things that they've won and feel like, well, maybe someone else needs it more, particularly women. So this could be coming up to say you do actually deserve a reward. And it could also be coming up because you need to give yourself the reward. So sometimes people will say, I feel like I haven't earned it, so I don't want to give myself a day off, or, engage in self-care because I feel like I have to earn it. And you don't. By virtue of being a child of the universe, you deserve good things. So therefore, reward yourself. When you do that, you are sending a message to the universe that you know your worth. And that's important because that tells the universe how you feel about yourself, and it starts to attract better outcomes. If you believe that you deserve good things, the universe will send you more good things. And I'm not saying if you're attracting not so helpful things that it's because you don't believe in yourself enough, but it could be one contributing factor that's involved in some part. Now, coming back to this dove, as I flagged, maybe you deserve to feel at peace. Now, I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but some people really struggle with that. They've been brought up around drama and stress, and so the idea of being in peace feels really like something that they don't deserve, or that is uncomfortable for them. And maybe the reward that you need is actually to do something that brings you peace. Go and sit in a quiet corner of the house with a hot chocolate all to yourself, or maybe do something that brings you peace, such as going for a walk in nature. I don't know, I'm not going to tell you what the reward is, but it's important to make sure that you do reward yourself. So here you go, these are the two from the same deck. I don't think that matters too much, although I'm out of order now. So what I see going on here is a big theme around letting go of old tensions or wounds, and this is not something we can just magically flick a switch on. It takes time, it takes a lot of work, and we have to be willing to look at what's going on underneath. And we also have to be willing to drop blame. That's a huge one. And again, when we drop blame, it doesn't mean that we're saying that we are the ones to be blamed. We're trying to remove that from the equation. So very much a big week of self-reflection, of letting go, and about really being, I like this idea of being parents to ourselves, this idea of soothing ourselves, of giving ourselves what we need. And so that for some of you, that might involve doing a little bit of a reflection back on your childhood and trying to find patterns with what's happening now. Denying yourself rewards, for example, could be because you didn't get nice things as a child, or you had to earn them, and now and there were very strong parameters for that. I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, but just have a bit of a think about it. And if you need help, please do book in with me for an energy healing session. So you can do that via my website, www.onegroundedangel.com, and you can also email me at onegroundedangel@gmail.com Each card will be on my social media. My Instagram is at One Grounded Angel. My Facebook page is called One Grounded Angel. And I cannot give you personal guidance. You do need to make an appointment to do that. But I can answer general questions. I do apologise that this has been really scrappy. Dropping the cards was definitely not a good look. So thank you for bearing with, and I can't promise it will be better next week, but I will do my best. So we'll see how it goes. Either way, you're getting the messages that you need. So thanks very much for watching, everybody, and thank you for your patience.